Exactly. Okay. Change the volumes on. Kulan and a Black Gemara. We are up to the Yud Daled Amud Aleph. We are up to the Mishnah. So the Mishnah says, Kol Shivas Hayamim. During the 7 days that the Kohen Gadol is preparing himself for Yom Kippur, what does he do? He's in isolation. Does he stand in nothing? No. He trains himself and he does different avodas. So Huzoidik as Adam, he goes ahead and he sprinkles the blood of the carbon tummy so he should get used to it. Because the avodas of Yom Kippur, all the avodah Yom Kippur are done by the Kohen Gadol, whether it's all done by Torah or just Midrabanan, they're all done by the Kohen Gadol. And we just started the Mishnah. And so the 7 days that the Kohen Gadol is waiting there, he sprinkles the blood. Umaktir es haktodes. He also goes ahead and he brings up the incense. Umeitiv es hanedes. He cleans out the candles from the ashes from the wicks from last night. And according to some, he also lights them every morning. For the other side, he doesn't. And this is something he do every single morning. So he prepares himself. He's the one who does the training. He trains himself to do that as well. Umakri v'sarosh, and as a regal, he then goes ahead and he brings up the head of the carbon tummy and the foreleg, because these are the first parts he bring up. The rest of the year, all of these activities, it's up to the Kohen Gadol whether he performs them or not. If he wants to perform, he can, and if he doesn't, he doesn't. It's up to him. Because the Kohen Gadol is the one, he's the leader, and therefore he has a choice to choose whatever activity he wants to do. He can. Also, when it comes to distribute and divide the eating of the kachim, he takes the first portion and he can choose the best portion if he so chooses. So the Gemara, man tana. So the order in our Mishnah is that you first do so we're talking about it. First of all, the Mishnah says 7 days he does activities. Now, if you remember, we learned before, Rab Meir says that every one of these 7 days you sprinkle the Kohen Gadol. Now that is an issue here, because according to Rabbi Akiva, fascinating thing. We know that Paradum is a chok, and Shlomo said, even I try to understand, it's way beyond me. What exactly is it? Which aspect of Paradum is the chok? So Rabbi Akiva says that it's a v'hiza hatoy al tameh, that the whole idea of Paradum is that the person is tameh, you sprinkle on him, you make him toy. But if that person happened to be the person who received this, the person who received the hazah happened to be toy, and you sprinkle him, he becomes tamei. The very same, the Reishim hazah takes a tamei person, makes him toy, but take a toy person, makes him tamei. So according to Rabbi Akiva, if you're going to sprinkle the Kohen Gadol every single day, he becomes tamei. At least he needs to, to go to a mikveh, and he has to have the head of shemesh. So how can he do his activities? So obviously, our Mishnah does not follow Rabbi Akiva. Now, the simple answer could have been Rabbi Akiva doesn't follow Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Akiva holds a Kohen Gadol. He doesn't spray every single day. But because of the stam, we're going to assume that everybody agrees. If we know a stam Mishnah generally, it goes according to Rabbi Meir, so we'll assume that everyone agrees with this. So man Tana, because you're now saying that he doesn't have wages. He tried. So man Tana, who's off our Mishnah, Rav Chizda said the like Rabbi Akiva. Obviously, Mishnah cannot be Rabbi Akiva. Why not? Rabbi Akiva says Toish Nofla Olav Hazah Timasa, that a toidik person. We're saying Nofla Olav because why would you sprinkle in the first place?
Which talks about you have this swap around as it were, is really, really good for Aduma. Yeah, correct. But here, when you're doing this tumah is tumas message trying to clean up.
Remember, we said Mikol Chatois. The Mayor says every day the Kohen God will sprinkle Mikol Chatois. Either all the paradumas, the Efer gets put together, they get collected, and they spray, or it's a Moshe Rabbeinu's. But that's definitely paradum here, because in case of the tummy mess, we had before. The 3rd day, the 7th day, the only day we don't spray is the 4th day, and Shabbos. Says the Gemara. But how can the Kohen Gadol do avodah? The Tanya we learned. So when if you dollar and aleph, we're just doing the Gemara. We're trying to work out the Mishnah. So the Kohen Gadol does a number of activities. The Tanya we learned he's a hatoy ala tamei. It says the pasuk that the toy should sprinkle on the tamei on the 3rd and 7th day, and so on. ala tomei toy. So we medayik if Rabbi Kiva says if you spray it on the tomei digger person will become toy. Otherwise, if you say tomei tomei, obviously it's a he's a toy. Allah. What the hell tummy for? To tell you only if his tummy doesn't work. But ala toy, if the person who received the mehazah was toy, tummy, he will become tummy. Give it a kid. The Chacham say, "Ein hadvorim halalu amurin ela betvorim hamekablim tumah." The Chachamim say an interesting thing that the din is you're not allowed to do any avodah with the paraduma, and we're going to extend it now the way Rashi learns, and some of the Shainim, we're going to extend it now also to the me'efer chatas as well. That the ash that you're going to sprinkle also you're not allowed to do any avodah with. Now, if you took the azoiv, the what do you call it, the hyssop, and you dipped it into this me'efer, and you sprinkle it on something that does not require sprinkling, that means you just didn't avoid it with the me'efer because there was no purpose, and you just passed the whatever the mixture or whatever was on the this, we have to remove it and so on. But if you sprinkle it on something which is mikabel tumah, so therefore it wasn't even though you didn't have it in mind, it wasn't a bad thing because the toilet works. So then it's not considered your work of the me'efer. So this was the dasha with the pasuk. He's out. They say, when do we say that it's considered that it's a mehazah only in something that is mekabel tumah? What's going on in Mayi? What do you mean? You can't be learning. What happened is skavin lahazaz ala behema. You wanted to spray on a behema, which is no point because the behema does not mekabel tumah. It's not mekabel tumah. Oh, but he's allowed in the payil. You spray it on a person, which is mekabel tumah. Then it's all right. Im yesh be'ezav. There's still some left mechatas. You shana use it a second time because there's nothing wrong. You didn't pass it. So the fact is, who did you spray it on? Even though it wasn't your kavanah, you sprayed it on a person, which is something as mekabel tumah. So therefore, it's still valid. The May 8th, and you can use it again on if there's enough left over to spray on another person or whatever you want to spray on. Or the kavan was right, you want to spray on a person, but he's out of the pile you sprayed it onto an animal. The pile you sprayed it onto an animal which is not mekabel tumah, therefore turned out to be that you did a malacha with the May 8th. If there's any left over May 8th on the hyssop, you cannot use it because you possibly didn't have idea with it. And how do you know that? For this pasuk, he's a hatoir ala tameh. Only if you sprayed on a tameh, you would say it's called hazor. But if you sprayed it not on a tameh, on something like it's not called hazor. It's as if you did malacha with this maid. My time, but Rabbi Kiva, how does Rabbi Kiva know his din? How does Rabbi Kiva know his din that the person only if he's tameh doesn't work, but the person is Torah actually becomes tameh? Should have said he's a Torah olam. My al hatame. Why did the trader change the word olav? He's a hatoid al hatame. Shmamino al hatame toid. If the person is tame, he'll become toid. Or the al hatoid, the person is toid, he'll become tame.
Just might not have become Tommy.
Sorry,
these hazars here are actually precaution because he might not become a Tommy.
Yeah, he might not. Yeah, but we're saying it's a chash. But the fact is that you sprayed him. According to Kiva, now he is tummy has had a shemish, so he couldn't work.
No, because it's shash, you're allowed to use the seed that you have got a tumor.
Yeah, a suffix tumor also needs a hazar. It's a suffix tumor, but he doesn't have to. But if he does, it's not wrong. But when I'm machmer by Kondot, would begin to be machmer. But Rabbanon, what do they do with it? He's a Torah Tomei. I was body my Makabel Tumah does is coming for things that Makabel just said Makabel Tumah. Abel Hoch over here, Kalbo Chayim, Kalbo Chayim. But Rabbanon hold that in Svara, if you spray on a Torah person, doesn't make sense to say that the person becomes tamid. If you spray on a tamid person, you're going to purify him. You can spray on a Torah person and make him tamid. That's what the Chum say. No, he says, this is exactly what the chok is. So the chok of paradum is that this very same me'azor that purifies somebody can also be metambe somebody. Amarti echt mavir chaykim meni. Shlomo Melech said, Nu Rabbanan, what's talking the chok of paradum? This is what you're saying before you mean. According to Rabbanan, what's the chok of paradum? Ahu lemazeh. That the guy who sprays, who's holding it and spraying, the guy who's receiving it, they become tired. Somebody touches it, become tired. That's the chok. Somebody touches it, becomes tummy. For in the very same passage where it says that Negeya becomes tummy, it says the Mazal becomes tummy. It says, not only is the maze tamei, he's even worse than the negeya. The negeya becomes tamei just to wash the clothes. The maze, not only he becomes tamei, he also has to mechabes begodav. So what do you tell me the maze is to? My maze. Now the truth of the matter is, the Gemara could have said you're right. That's the chok. But the Gemara goes further. My maze means negeya. Maze means the maze himself does not become tamei. But if a guy touches the part of he's not the maze, he touched it. Another coin stood it, he touched it, then he comes to me. 1 second. Look at me on. Maz in the gate. I need a Haksiv Maz in the gate. In the very same post, it says both already. What do you mean the Maz is in the gate when it says later and Nochmid? It is different. Boy, Maz, boy, keep us the Godim. Nogea, boy, keep us the Godim. The Maz has to, the din is different. This one needs to watch the clothes and this isn't. How can you say the same thing? My Maz no you say, that's the Chumash. The Maza himself is tied. The Torah says Maza. Maza is the one who's carrying it, comes to me. No, so why doesn't it use the word Maza, the one who sprays it, sprinkles it, when he actually means the one who's carrying it? No, there's a reason for that. My time makes it Maza. How Kamash teach you to be in an sheer hazach. Shabbos, when you carry a Shabbos, it has to be a certain significant amount. So too, when it comes to say that the noise becomes tamei, it has to be a sufficient amount to do hazah. And therefore, if it's not, it doesn't become tummy. But who becomes tummy? The noise becomes tummy and the negeya, not the mazah and not the one who's on the receiving end. Not everyone holds you need a shear by hazah. According to some mashu, as soon as the mashu touches, you become tired already. And that, in fact, that could be the chok, because the mikvah normally you have to immerse yourself completely. If one hair sticks out, it's no good. And here we say that no. Even a mash. The one who says the hazard requires a shear. Okay, so since you require a shear, okay, so therefore that's what it says. Hamazi, even though it means hanoise, because you need a certain shear. One who holds a hazard does not require a shear. What are you going to say then? Says the Gemara, even the one who says hazard, even the one who says the hazard ain't a shear, even the one who says that sprinkling is not near a shear. Hani mili agaba de gabra. That's only if you're sprinkling on a person. If a mashu touches the person, that's good enough. Avo b'mana, if you're sprinkling on utensils, then tzricha shir. There it does require a shir, and that's why the Torah says v'hanoisei. But for the one who's carrying the Torah says hamazah because you need a shir. But now we learn kama yehi behen yehi kidehazor. How much taka the shir? How much do you have to have on it in the hyssop to be considered that this is sufficient to sprinkle kadeshi yitbo rasha givailin enough. When I'm based on top of the kadeshi yitbo, you dip in the rasha givailin, the very top of the hyssop, the yaz, and still have enough to spray. In other words, when you put the hyssop inside the may aphid, it actually absorbs some of it. So therefore, if you only put a very little on it, there's nothing left to sprinkle. So you have to put enough in that it should, even though it gets absorbed, nevertheless, it's enough to sprinkle. So then that's why I tell you use the word matzah, because in other words, if it's totally absorbed in the hyssop and you carrying it, you won't become tummy. If it's absorbed and there's still enough left on top of it, top of the azer that you can still sprinkle it, then you are.
Just a discussion. Yeah. When they used the azer, was it fresh cut or was it dried?
It sounds like from Rashi that it was moist and it actually absorbed quite a lot. It absorbed a lot. Must be that it's fresh.
No, it's dry and suck it up. I don't know. I'm just wondering. Yeah, because when you dip it, a lot of it remains, moisture remains even on the surface and the outside surface. A little bit of that. You put it in properly, you've got a quantity on the surface.
Yeah, ask another question. And how much time spent? It takes time to get absorbed.
Yeah,
so exactly gives away how much you absorb. So maybe there's a certain time as well that we say, I don't know. I don't know.
We get into the whole question of the music thing.
Small amount. I don't know. Bike is another text altogether. You want to say it's not to be a kiva mishakam. Kiva holds the claim God will come. Tell me how in the world can you do an avodah? You want to say Zachamim? I'm going to tell you. Abayamar, I feel the time of kiva. I can tell you about kiva. The Ovid avodah kulayim. This is what he did. Remember when you become tamei from the hazoya. Even according to Makiva, the Torah person comes tamei not for 7 days. Comes tamei just for the rest of the day, and then he goes to the mikveh, and then he gets the head of shemesh. You know what they did? The Ovid avodah kulayim. I mean, what you think in the morning they spray it, and they sprayed it right before dark. So the kohen did all the avodas during the day, whatever he had to do. And then Ulafanya in the afternoon, Maldu in the afternoon they sprayed it on him, and then if it Tovi went to the mikveh, the Ovid had a shemesh. A lateral thinker about it. It's amazing. I mean, you just
But
as you learn the Gemara, you get to appreciate Abaya's
this
brilliance.
whole thing is a precaution in case he became Thomas. So what you're saying is, well, it could be he became Thomas during the day. I'm not interested. He can do the avodah, and at the end of the day,
If he's Tommy, he can.
No, but I'm saying this is a suffix, Tommy, right?
It's a chashra chayka, but we learn from Maluyim. Remember, we learned Maluyim, and we learn from, or you learn from Har Sinai, and Bataish is the most extreme hold that's only with the Rabban. The whole thing is with the not even Hatayda Chum with the Rabban. So therefore, there's no issue here. So he's not really Tommy. We're just going through all of these steps here to be machta. So you wait till that late afternoon. But
so his whole term is a matter of a half an hour or something.
If it was,
you do it late in the
if it was Tommy, yeah, you late afternoon.
You assume he did all the avoid and after get the last but after you finish the avoid, that's when you make
just in case.
Exactly.
Precaution.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, next Gemara here in the Mishnah. Okay, now that we said the Kohen Gadol, the Stabbat Kohen Gadol prepares himself, the Mishnah gives us certain avoidance, and it sounds like Mishnah is giving us a seder, the sequence of events. And then now Mishnah says, first thing he does is he is makted the Ketreidus. Remember that he does twice a day, half in the morning and half at night. So first he does the Ketreidus, and then he does the candles. Now, if you remember, we say every day in Davening Abaya, the Masad the same Arocha Liba Dava Shol. Over there you do. Now this is important to remember. You do 5 candles first, then you mafsik with an activity, and according to Abba Shol, the activity is the Talmud. You work with a covered Talmud and it's a shachar, and then you do shachas, and then you do the other 2, and then you do the Ketreidus. That's what it says there. But in our Mishnah it says,
You say from memory, the halach is not like Abba Shol. I don't know why we say it's Mishnah.
okay, but in our Mishnah it says that the first thing you do is Ketreidus, and then you do Hatovas Hanedus. It's not like anybody. You know, but it sounds like the way to read Parsha the Mishnah. First you do the Ketreidus, and then you do the whole 7 thing. But according to Abba Shol, the Ketreidus is afterwards. According to Chachamim, the Ketreidus is a sandwich in the middle between the 5 and the 2. Our Mishnah, the Ketreidus takes place before the whole 7. So we'll see how Abaye learns and how others.
When you say here in the morning, does this mean Abaye was Masada
You'll see the
according to the Gemara?
Gemara means what he learned from tradition. I'll leave it Abba Shol, according to Abba Shol's wisdom. Because Abba Shol one holds that between the 5 and the 2 candles, you do the Damatomit. Everyone holds you make a hefsek. The question is what you do in that hefsek. Is it Ketreidus or is it Damatomit?
No, so what I was asking is this above Mafsik or above Mechaber? It connects to.
No, but L'chayda you would ask.
It's a tradition of Abba Shol.
L'chayda, it's a state in itself. Mashmei Gemara means this is what he learned from his Rebbe's. And then he said, but this is not what my Rebbe's told me. This is only according to Abba Shol.
Okay.
So, but your Rebbe's actually said something else. They say the Ketreidus goes in the middle. So it's not really Mashmei the Gemara. Unless the Rebbe said, they always told them the 2 opinions. Yeah, they always told them the 2 opinions. Okay, let's go to Gemara light. The Gemara Maktis Ketreidus and made it Hanedus. Alma L'chayda from our Mishnah Ketreidus, but each of the Hanedus. First thing they did with Ketreidus, and we have a problem with that. But I mean, we're going to learn later in the Gemara all about this pious. They had this lottery, and they had a number of lotteries for different activities that makes a mikdash, and therefore, and they all go in sequence. And this is what it says over there. It says later on as well. We had it in Talmud. Okay, this person is zoiche that he is going to clean out the inner mizbeach. This person is going to clean out the menorah, and so on and so forth. And what it talks about what tools they have to take. And then it says, and then whoever is zoiche in the Ketreidus. So the what is he from in the Mishnah Talmud? That menorah is first and Ketreidus is last. And our Mishnah is like Ketreidus is first and Menorah is last. So the Chayr is a state between the Mishnah in Talmud and the Mishnah in Yoma. When we were learning in Yeshiva, my Rosh Yeshiva was, Pekarsky, and who learned by the Chelkas Yodov a little bit, but also by the Tzvi and others, I'm a Polish. The vocabulary or the pronunciation of all the words of the Gemara today, because it's modern Hebrew, it's Art Scroll and Steinsaltz and Kahossi and all that, they've changed everything. And what bothers me is, and I can't say it even, they called Yoma. It was always Yoma. Yeah. There's nobody in the old world who called it Yoma. But even though Yoma might be politically correct or everything else, it's still Masechta Yoma, whether you like it or not.
Nice things are at school. When our kids were in school, and Rabbi Ash always used to say Yoma. I'm talking now 30 years.
Who did?
Rabbi Ash.
Because he must have had a Kahasi Mishnayis. and the Kodesh Night says Yoma. But in the learning world, it was always Masechta Yoma. In fact, you look in the English translation, when you see the English of whatever, copying one of these old things, you'll see it says Yoma, not Yoma.
It was Yoma in my day.
Oh, see,
There you go.
Gary, you're my vintage. So.
That's right.
I never heard Yoma before when I was
Look in the Steins, look at Arshos Yoma.
Yeah.
And it's like you feel like you took the whole Kedusha out of it. They're ripping out all these words that they change. Oh, full, but the other ones are minor. This is like it's a different word. Anyway, so I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to be saying Yoma, not Yoma. That's what they say. Ein Hochanami. What do they say? No, there's so many. Okay.
I want to have a conversation with anyone.
B'di'evet is a perfect example. Really, you're supposed to say B'di Ovad, and we all say B'di'evet. So, anyway, so you have to excuse me. Let's continue. So the machlek is between Masechta Yoma and Masechta Tamid. For Masechta Tamid, there it says that Keteris is last, and now in Masechta here it says that Keteris is first. Which one is it? So we can have two answers. But Abuna says, Man Tamid, the entire Masechta Tamid was written anonymously by one Tana, and therefore he argues with the Mishnahs in the Shnayis in Masechta Yoma. Who is that? Reb Shimon Isha Mitzapeh. That he argues, he holds that the Keteris will last, but our Mishnah holds it early. Freddy Gemara, how can that be? But we know that the Shimon Fenish argues on some of the Mishnahs and Talmud. He couldn't have been the author of Masechta Tamid, for example. The time we learned nothing to do with Keteris, but to show you that the Shimon cannot be the author of Masechta Tamid. And what's the story? The time we learned, we know that by a carbon, when you spray the blood is Shteim Shein Arba. So how do you do Shteim Shein Arba? So you go to one corner and you mamish sprinkle spray in the corner so it spreads out. And then you go to the diagonally across the other corner and it spreads out. So when you go into the base of Mikdash, you go on the right. It's called the northeast corner, which is a right in the right. You stand and you spray, and it splatters across on both sides. Then you go diagonally opposite to the west southwest corner, and then you spray it, and it splatters both sides. That's what the Tanakhama says. So Noisim Mizracha Tzefayna Marav is the first one. You go, Noisim Mizracha Tzefaynis and Marav Adremis, right? You go two diagonally opposites. You go to the northeast and the southwest. And he says there, so then what you do is you go for your first and that you put into the northeast corner. And then you go to the south. When you get to the southwest corner, you put on the southwest corner. Again, you put it again on the corner and sprays it too. But said no. He says Mishana B'Tamid. He says no. When it comes to a carbon tamid, or he says that follows. He disagrees. He says Mizrachi Tzvainis. You're right. When it comes to Mizrachi Tzvainis to the northeast corner, Nois Mizrachi Tzvainis. I agree. You put it in that corner and spread it across. When it comes to the southwest corner, don't do that same thing that you split in the corner. First Nois Marava. You're going around, right? So when you're going all around, the first place you hit is the west side. So you first put on the west side, the opposite of the base of the entrance to the base of Mikdash, and then you go on to the south side, which is opposite of the north side. So we see he argues on the Mishnah Tommy. No, it's 3 times, but it's
okay, correct. Yeah, but
it's not Stein Shem Arba.
The first time you're taking care of 2 sides.
Yeah.
And the other side you're going to do each side individually.
Yeah, he only argues the carbon tummy. All other oilers he agrees. Carbon tummy he argues. So what does he mean? That he's not the author of Masechta Tamid. So the Gemara, Ella, but Rav Yechon, man Tana say the Yoma, who is the author of Masechta Yoma? Rav Shimon Ishmael who? He is the author of Masechta Yoma, and therefore Masechta Tamid holds the Keteris is last, and Masechta Yoma holds the Keteris is before Hatavas and Names. For the Gemara, within Yoma itself, we got a problem. The Rami say the Yoma. We have a problem in Masechta Yoma as well. Later on, when we talk about the lottery that now we learn. They had different lotteries. They had one lottery, and then they organized everything. Then a second lottery to do the next activities, and a third lottery. So it says as follows: Payis Hasheni, the second lottery. There were a total of 4 lotteries altogether. So the second lottery that they did every single day. So that was decided. Who in the first one it talks about who's going to get rid of the wood and clean up the brech. Second one is who is going to shech. And me Zaydik, and who's going to sprinkle, and me medashim mizbech, who's going to clean out the inner mizbech, me medashim is a meneda, and who's going to clean out the meneda. Umi male vodin la kevish, and who is going to bring up the limbs? Which kind? Because there's a number of limbs you can bring on the kevish. So we spoke about the menorah, right, in this Mishnah first, and then Payis Ashlishi. Later on, they made another lottery, and there was Chadashim Laktoides. Only new kohenim could join for this lottery. We'll learn later why. Fascinating reason why only new kohenim could join the Laktoides. You can't have anybody who was once in a lottery or once won to join in again. Now, but what is he clear from here? The Laktoides was after that Tavis Natus. Here in this Mishnah of Yudal, the Mishnah said that first you do Titus and then you do cleaning of the menorah. But later on, the Chafei, when it talks about the lotteries, there it says Pukvaket. There it says the second lottery was for the menorah and the third lottery was for Titus. It's a contradiction of two Mishnahs here in Masech Yoma. Remember, we split the candles. Our Mishnah is talking about the last two candles. This is the problem that a papa has with Abaye, because in our Mishnah talks about the last two candles before it talks about the first five candles. So our Mishnah is talking about the last two candles, and what do you do before the last two candles? You do Titus. That Mishnah there is talking about the five candles. Five candles come before the Titus. Remember, so what do you tell?
This Mishnah starts Paisa Sheni, and he sets out what it is. What does a Paisa Rishon have in it?
Oh, that's to clean out the B'deshin around the bed.
Okay, so wait a minute. So and then say according to this order, you've got the two that are left at the end of the menorah. So where do you fit in for the first five?
You're talking about the first one?
No, if you say this Paisa Sheni is.
No, he's talking about our Mishnah talking about the two. They're talking about the five. That third Payis was for the five, and two goes afterwards, obviously. That's talking about the.
What I'm saying this Mishnah starts with Paisa Sheni. Our Mishnah, this did not here.
Later on, okay.
No, this Mishnah we're quoting now. So this Mishnah is saying.
Paisa is not talking about the. It's not talking about the. It's talking about the menorah. It's talking about the. Yep. It's talking about the menorah. It's talking about the what do you call it? 5 candles. Some of the 5 candles. Yeah. And then whoever excited afterwards. Okay. So the Gemara, how could it be? So you're telling me, remember the Victor Master. So you're telling me that our Mishnah is talking about the 2 candles, and right before the 2 candles, they do the Titus. No, what's the hefsek between the 5 and the 2? It's Titus. Well, Bayim Masad Marocha Mashmed is good. People just special for Bayim Masad Marocha, the name of his Rebbe's, about his tradition, Uvid, and with Damat Tamid Mafsiglu. And it says it clearly in the davening there that what did he put between the 2 and the 5 and 2 is that Damat Tamid. I'm gonna look. That's not a problem. Ahila Abashol. There, a Bible saying according to Abashol, and here he's talking now about the Rabbanan. What's the story? The Tanya we learned. You shouldn't go ahead and be mative the native, all 7, and then be maktiv. No, it's in the middle. What do you interrupt? What do you interrupt your 5 and 2 with a ktatus? Abashol says mativ v'achakach maktiv. Abashol says first you do the all 7. And then you do the Torah. What's the middle? Damatamid. My time Rabbi Shol was, what's the Svara Rabbi Shol? What's the Svara? The Chsiv. Why Abaye quotes Abba Shol? We have to say that, because Allah is like the Chachamim. My time Rabbi Shol, what's Rabbi Shol? The Chsiv says, Baboike, Beheitivas Hanedas. It says in the Pasuk that in the morning you should be native natives and Hada Yaktirena. And only afterwards it says Yaktirena. So Abba Shol says, first you do all the 7 natives. What do you mafsi between the 5 and the 2? Damatamid. But first you do all the 7 natives, and then only after you do the 7 natives, that's when you do what do you call it? The Titus. But Rabbana, my karma, what Rabbana, what do you say? Rachmana, Eden Hatova Tehemek Maktik Titus. The Rabbana hold that while you're doing the Hatova, you should be Maktik Titus. In other words, in between the 5 and the 2, you don't do Damatama, then that's when you do the Titus. Because if you're not going to say that, what force Acham to say what they're saying? Maybe Taka do like Abba Shol, the say that first you do the Hatavas, the Zionators, and then only after the Titus. It's in the Pasuk. You do all the natives, and then select it. Chacham say no. While you're being made to the natives, insert in there also the Titus. What force the Chacham to say that? So we say like this: the Eloi came out, not so. What about in the afternoon where it says it says when you're bringing up an abayim yaktirena. Now what? So following you Abba Shol, you're saying that the Torah writes it has to be in that particular order. So you're going to learn that night as well. First you mative the natives, you madlig the natives. Not make you madlig the natives, and then you do the Titus. And that, maybe that's why Abba Shal was a problem. Hochinami, the Bereisha Madlik Neder, you're going to tell me that the Pshat and the Pasuk, like you say, has to be exactly like that. First, you light the candle of other Makti Traders, and then you bring traders, should be in the Baim. You're going to say that. And what's wrong? Why not? Maybe Abba Shal Tako, what's the problem? Abba Shal holds like in the morning, first you clean out the candles, then you do the traders at night also. First, you light the candles, all 7, and then you do the traders. What's wrong? Because what Tanya we learned. That you put in enough oil to last from night to the morning. 10 lamidasa, put in enough oil, should the hay lekes by leches kolalayla, to burn the entire night. Rashi here learns that you put in, you always, the measure of oil is uniform, regardless whether it's summer without long nights, short nights, or whether it's winter without long nights. In the summer, you can have leftover oil. Says Rashi, you have leftover oil. And so what? And if it's left over, he says leftover. But Tais is another shame learner. No, they used to play around with the wicks, depending on thick, thick or thin, depending on how much, how long it had to burn for. But anyway, our problem is not that it's not from that pasuk, but from that halacha. It says next halacha. The Brisa says, what do you mean that you should light your candle from night till morning? The only activity the last activity that takes place before the night is which means it has to be before. So just like when it comes to the afternoon, it says in the pasuk, it cannot mean literally that you do the Kedesh after the natives. Same in the morning, even though it says but it is a natives, and then it's the Yaktiren. It doesn't literally mean that the Yaktiren takes place afterwards. It means during. What did it mean? What did it mean? That while you did the hadlaka, you should already have the Kedesh all set up. The same time that you do the morning, you take care of the candles, you do the Kedesh. Abba Shal, what's Abba Shal going to say? He takes it literally. What's he do with the night? Shiny Hasam, night is different. It says in the pasuk. It says in the pasuk Oisoi. It says in the pasuk Oisoi. So therefore, we dashin that only that should be done. What does it say Oisoi? It's said Yarach Oisoi Aaron Abanav. Because it says oisoi in singular, therefore it's clear that Torah there wants you to have the candles last and nothing after that. So the Torah telling you that even though the Seder in Yonim I wrote, the first is that block of natives and then Yaktirena, don't take the pshat literally because it says Yarach oisoi b'derech boiker. That should be the way it is. But in the morning it doesn't say that. So take it pshutai. That first is behativs and natives and then Yaktirena. So that's what he learns. Okay, and our Papa is going to give us just a few more lines. Finish this again. Our Papa says like kasha. A Papa says, I'll answer different than my Rebbe Abaya. I think it's not a problem at all. You want to know there's a stira between the two missions that say the Yoma, right? There's a stira. Our mission says that Kedesh comes first. And the Mishnah later on says that Beneda comes first. And right, you have a stira. So you gave a whole answer, the chiluk with 5 candles and the 2 candles. Says the Papa, no, I'll give you a simple answer. The Mishnahs are arguing. So you might hold Abba Shal. Abba Shal hold that Kedesh is last. That's the mission later on. The Rabbanan hold that Kedesh is in the sandwich in between. It's our mission here.
So why, when we have Abaya here, I'll live with the Rabbanan. In Lamed Gimel, we have Abaya, I'll live with Abba Shal. Why, when we take on in davening, when the Shalma Param is for saying, do we take on the Das Yochid, which is Abaya, I'll live with Abba Shal?
Abaya is not saying that Abaya is saying that the 2 missions is not a problem. One is talking about regarding the 2 candles, and one's talking regarding the 5 candles. Our mission is talking about regarding the 2 candles. We're following here the Rabbanon. The whole thing. But Abai is no machlekes. Our mission is talking about the last 2 candles. Kedesh comes first. That's why it says Kedesh first. The Mishnah later on talks about the Payas is talking about the 5 candles, and that's comes before. No, the first 5, and then the Kedesh. So there later on, when it says first Meneda, then it says Kedesh is because we're talking about the 5 candles. The problem with the Abai Shad is it's very good, it's very shmak. It's all Rabban. The problem is that the order then is wrong. Why are you talking about the 2 candles before you talk about the 5 candles? Okay, the first you do the 5 candles in the morning and the 2 candles later. That's the problem with Abaya. The problem with the Papa is that he's going to make a machlekes of 2 missions in the same Masechta. That's and so you're not asked. The Maya Kindle Masis Nahari Rabbanan. You're going to say that our Mishnah here goes according to the Rabbanan, and therefore Kedesh comes first. And Payas, where it says Meneda comes first, follows Abba Shal. Ema Sefer. Okay, then we have another Mishnah later on, and that Mishnah there later on says, Hey, Violayas Atomit. They then brought the Korban Tamid to the Kohen Gadol. He didn't, even though he did all activities, he couldn't do the entire Shchita because the Kohen Gadol is the same person who had to do the Kabbalah. If he does a entire shchita, how in the world can he then run and do the Kabbalah? It's too late. Remember the first blood, a gush of blood. So he does most of the shchita, and then another kohen comes and finishes it, and while the other kohen finishes it, he grabs the keli to mikabel the dam. Says the Hevi Elois Hatami, they brought him the tummy. Kortzu, he did most of the shchita. Umarak, and then Achashchita Yav, and then afterwards he's the one who gets the keli there to capture all the blood. Then it says the Nichnes Lahaktis Aktatis, he went into the Aktatis, Ulahativ Zanedis, Aktatis before. That's back to the shit of the Chachamim. Asal Rabbanan. What's going on here? Reisha, the Mishnah of the Vidalid is the Rabbanan. The Sefer and the Mishnah of the Flamet Aleph is the Rabbanan. Umitziyas Abishol, and the Mishnah in the middle, sandwiched in between about the Payas, suddenly jumped to Abishol. It doesn't flow. I'm a Papa Inya. I'm no Breda. Reisha the Sefer Rabbanan. Umitziyas Abishol. That's how we learn. So the Gemara concludes. Bishleim Abaylam Papa. Understand why Abay doesn't agree with Papa? Reisha the Sefer Rabbanan is Abishol. He doesn't like to learn that way, but the Mishnah that Vidal is the Rabbanon, the Mishnah Lamanal is the Rabbanon, and Mishnah Chafei is Abishol. No, that doesn't flow. El Rapapa, my time Lamanal Abaya. Abaya, look at the beautiful answer. It's all the Rabbanon. We're talking about our Mishnah about the 2 candles, and the Mishnah later on talking about the 5 candles. Amalach, I have a problem with Abaya. Tona Bereisha Hatova Shtei Nedes Vahada Hatova Chaminedis. First, you're supposed to do the 5 candles, then the traders, and then 2 candles. And yet, the way Abaya learns, the first Mishnah tells you the activities of the Kohen Gadol. It's telling you what he does with the 2 candles, the traders and 2 candles, which will happen later. And then the next Mishnah, it tells you about the 5 candles, which happens earlier. Abaya just says, he's not telling you any particular order. Mishnah is just telling you the activities the Kohen Gadol does during his quarantine period. Later on, I'll tell you exactly the order. The Mishnah is not pedantic right now, doesn't really particular about what the order is. Okay, concludes today's Gemara.